everyone, Stacy Casson here. For those of you who can't see me, I'm a very tan woman. I have short, wavy salt and pepper hair. I have a white flower in my hair. I'm wearing clear glasses and a very colorful blue, green, teal, I don't know, turquoise scarf and a black dress. Welcome to today's Ask Me Almost Anything. Looks like I have comments. Yay! And hey, Kristen, good to see you. I'm assuming you can hear me today, so I'm not going to have a repeat of yesterday where nobody could hear me, which was very sad because I thought it was really insightful. So we're going to go ahead and just take a moment to decompress before we get started. So if you want to join me, let's go ahead and take a deep breath in. Thank you for confirming and exhale. Deep breath in and exhale. Deep breath in and exhale. All right. We're going to go ahead and start with the Pokemon of the day. Whoops, my cards have fallen out. All right, count them. We'll start with the Pokemon of the day, and please put your question in the comments if you have some. If you don't, that's okay. I have a ton of great questions. And our Pokemon for today is Quilladin. Quilladin looks like a very cute porcupine in a sleeping suit. It is a energy Pokemon card. It's green and brown. Like I said, it looks like it has one of those little like Snuggies. It has a very pointy nose and various pointy parts. And it's a grass energy Pokemon. So for me, grass is about being grounded, to nature. Grass, green can also be about your heart. And this one is, it relies on its sturdy shell to deflect predators' attacks. It counterattacks with sharp quills. And I think that's kind of fun, with tomorrow for some people being Valentine's Day. For me, it's just a Hallmark holiday, but there's some matters of the heart. Maybe you have a prickly heart and you're maybe being a little defensive, but Quilladin looks kind of cute out there. So I think if nobody gives Quilladin a reason to be vexed, he won't spike you with the heart situation there. So, I think it's about guarding your heart when necessary, having appropriate boundaries. You all might think of something different, but Quilladin looks like he's having a really nice day. The sky is blue and it's running carefree. So I love it. So that's our card for the day. If you have a different opinion, that's very fine. Go ahead and share in the comments. So I've been given permission from Asmara see, I'm just struggling today, from Asmara. And we want to look at what could a world without really exploitative global policies, things that are not pro-human, what could next look like? What could a world look like where everybody can thrive? So we'll use a standard format to bring our imagination to life, because a lot of times we can't change the world because we don't know what that looks like. So what could next look like? So we start off with a water energy Pokemon card. Water to me is this is a blue card with a glowing blue sphere that has like a comet streak, and there is a water droplet in there. And I just get this feeling of something new just descending. And because it's water, something healing, something to do with like feelings, cleansing. Water gets rid of things at sometimes, like something being washed away. And it feels like we could definitely use a big splash to just wash away the ugliness that's happening right now. Water can also feel like being overwhelmed. Water, the blue card associated with the throat chakra. So this is about speaking up. And we are seeing a lot of people speaking up about the things that are anathema to them. We're speaking up about transgender people not being able to use the bathroom. We're speaking up against the genocide that is happening in Palestine. We're speaking up against the genocide in Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. People are speaking up against exploitative, extractive practices in countries that have been impacted by colonization. So we see a lot of people speaking, getting energized. What's the challenge? Energy retrieval. Okay. These are two Pokemon cards on a cord. One is a fire energy sphere and one is a lightning energy sphere. It's like they're being plucked out from a few other dormant Pokemon energy balls. And that is definitely a challenge of staying fired up, of the spark to create change. Like there's millions of people around the world speaking up. We haven't reached that tipping point as yet. And it's very challenging. We want that change and transformation. We want the old to be washed away and to bring in new things. But it's hard sometimes to find the energy, especially when you're dealing with of just ugliness. Like today people keep asking me, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm numb and I'm in a constant state of rage. So that's not sustainable, to be in a constant state of rage. So sometimes I just have to compartmentalize what's happening, and maybe that's something that can cope for you all. And maybe the energy retrieval is finding ways to re-energize ourselves. So what could next look like? What could that world look like? And we have a little cat. This is kind of hard to see because the card is very glittery and sparkly, but it is a little cat, like a little kitten, a litten. This is a fire Pokemon card, and it looks like it's kind of in the mouth of a cave, and outside is like blue skies and green grass. And this, I think, kind of reminds me of what we're trying to accomplish, especially most of us are outraged about what's happening to children. So here's a little kitten in kind of like the mouth of a barren cave, but behind the kitten, blue skies and green grass. So I think it's about creating a future where children can thrive. I think that's what next could look like. This kitten is calm. It's not this. I've seen different iterations of like evolutions of this Pokemon, and it's a lot more fired up and things like that. And this kitten can bite and flare, absolutely. But it looks relatively calm and it's in a calm environment. And like I said, there's blue skies and things. It builds up fur inside its stomach and can set it alight and spew fiery attacks, which change based on how it coughs. So we are building up that potential kinetic energy, and we can use our energy effectively to bring about that next. And for me, this is just a really beautiful visualization, again, of blue skies, green grass. The cat is safe. It has shelter in the cave. It'd be nice to have shelter outside under that blue sky. I think that's a beautiful picture. And what's our next step? I've been getting this card a lot. They're really cute. This is Plusle, and they're two kind of little bunny rabbit Pokemon. One has, they're both white. The pink one has a pink positive charge, and The blue one has blue ears and a blue negative charge. They're lightning Pokemon, so they work together, and this is like a tag team boost. And this is so joyful to me. And yellow for me is around that personal energy and creating joy. So our next could look like something joyful where people are celebrating, people are working together. We have to consider what has worked in the past in earlier civilizations. There was a book, I think it's called The Dawn of Everything. Don't quote me on that. I think it's The Dawn of Everything. And basically, the premise of the book was that this understanding of the premise of the book was that this idea that early civilizations are primitive and what we achieve today is advanced is kind of bollocks. There's all different kinds of ways that human beings can arrange themselves. And usually, some of the more successful civilizations were when women had a voice and could participate prevalently in society. That is something about where we're empowered in joy. That's what next could look like. People working together, people being equals, like positive and negative. It balances out. So next is something that there is balance. We're not extracting from each other. We're not extracting from the earth. We're not extracting from the animals. We're trying to do things that are sustainable, and it will look different. I mean, it definitely takes imagination to aspire that. So maybe we're building some criteria around what next could look like, changing the energy flexure, changing the power structure of how things can be. And I love Plusle because it's this idea of balance. Oh no, I don't want to end this stream yet. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button, but we're still going. Okay, I don't see any questions yet. Or, I mean, if you're digging this and I'm on, this is something that you envision, give me a yes, I can see this, so we can continue on. And so the next question would be, how do we divest from the mental models of now? And what I feel like thinking about, awesome, thank you, Kristen, for the encouragement. I feel like thinking about for this one is stop, start, continue. So how can we divest from mental models of now? I'm going to pull a card for stop. I'm going to pull a card for start, and I will show you. And I will pull a card for continue. Okay. So for continue, and we work in a kind of weird reverse order. Continue, we get the crushing hammer. This hammer is red. It's breaking things up. And I feel like we should continue to break up the status quo. We should continue for something new and different. We should continue speaking about that there can be other methods, other civilizations, other ways of organizing ourselves, of doing business, breaking the glass ceiling for the people that have been held down for so long. So those of you that are out there on the front lines, putting yourselves out there, making bold posts, but also putting your bodies on the line, we have to continue to fight against that crushing resistance. What are the things we can stop doing? And this one, I need to reflect a little bit on this. This is the Psychic Energy Pokemon card. It is a glowing purple sphere with a comet. And so when I'm thinking about stop and something that generally reminds me about intuition, I'm not quite sure, being very honest, I'm not quite sure yet what that means to me. Why would I stop trusting my intuition? So I'm gonna put that one aside and come back to it. But whatever that means, once I figure it out, the the point of stop, start, continue is once you figure out the things that are adding value and what's not adding value, then you should have space to start doing the things that will. So I'm going to jump to start, and I'll let my mind think about the psychic energy Pokemon card. And for start, we get the fairy energy Pokemon card. This is a pink card with a pink glowing sphere. It has looks like a stylized tulip where the petals kind of look like hands cradling is either a bud or a star or a brain synapse, like sparking new things, new ideas. But fairy energy is associated with healing. And so we can start healing, divest from mental models of, you know what, I'm back to this one. When I'm thinking now of psychic energy, sometimes I'm thinking of like mind games, right? A lot of the battle is in the mind. So stop letting ourselves be influenced by those Jedi mind tricks, right? This is stop just consuming media, for instance, without critically thinking about it. Who is going to gain from this? What are the word choices that they're using to trigger a response in us? Like, listen to your intuition. So I don't want to stop doing that, but stop falling for the Jedi mind tricks and manipulation that people can send out there. Stop letting the movement be co-opted, because sometimes things really sound great. And I was listening to this really excellent analysis of celebrity culture by the Down Ballot, Rahizami. Forgive me if I messed up your name because I don't see it in front of me. Reposted it. And there's so many mental mind tricks that fall under the guise of doing something bigger than ourselves, but it's actually been co-opted by people to kind of make it palatable and safe. So let's stop falling for that and look for mental models of healing. And healing and processing take time, especially breaking things up. You kind of have to let the dust settle to then find your way forward. And there's always such a sense of urgency for the wrong reasons. There's always, I mean, if you look in your workplace, it's always hurry up and wait. So when I hear this idea of the models of now, what are things that can give us expanse? And so this crushing hammer for me is kind of breaking up expectations, breaking up the sense of urgency for the wrong things, like the sense of urgency for productivity versus the sense of urgency for healing, for allowing humans time to grieve and mourn and have feelings and experience the world, to have time to reflect about what we're doing. Does it make sense? Are we on the right path? And those are the kind of mental models that we can bring into play, because like I keep coming back to trees, because trees don't have an agenda to grow. They're not like, I mean, they have seasons, right? There's the growing season where pollination happens, and then the flowering happens, and there's fruits. Or if it's not a flowering tree, there's seasons where it can bloom, and then fall comes depending on the tree, and the things fall off. So this idea that everything has to be now, when you look at most movies and those kind of things, and we keep to go against those cycles. One of my aunts, I thought it was okay, old Jamaican lady, that's interesting, but she said that electricity was, well, she's a little extreme, but she said electricity was a devil. But really, her point was it created these artificial systems of never resting. It's just go, 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 go. And not recognizing that when there's no more light, that is because you should rest. No, instead, we as a society keep trying to push on and do more. It's time. And we as humans pay the price for this idea of now. Drink some water. And it's really, I think there's this, this artificial idea of urgency, but it's not things that really impact human beings. It's urgency for profits or some spreadsheet versus urgency if your colleague is hurt or if your kid is crying and needs you or just your friends. Like that's where we should have urgency for human beings. That's where the now could be. So the next one is, what actions and lifestyle shifts can we make to catalyze the future without faff? I love that. What actions and lifestyle shifts can we make to catalyze the future without faff? So what's happening right now, potentially, or when we're thinking about these things, we get the urn of vitality. So this is an urn with like a fire spark under it. And I like this card a lot because it is about, for me anyway, what are things that fill us, revitalize us, and regenerate? Is that regenerate? I can't think of words today, but words that renew us. They're things that are regenerative, that fill us up. So I guess if we're thinking about actions and lifestyles as the top, what are things that are sustainable, regenerative, things that we feel inspired by, re-energize? That could be a word. Yeah, things that re-energize us. Thank you, Kristen. I don't know why I can't think of that word. So those kind of activities. What are those kind of activities? So let's continue going. Okay. So this is kind of the challenge in this situation. And we get an Ultra Ball. This is like a super specialized Pokemon ball. So in the Pokemon world, they have balls to catch different Pokemon. And some of them are a little more specialized than others. Ultra Balls, think they take a lot more energy to find them and to be able to get them. And so I'm thinking of, when I think of the challenge of what re-energize us, perhaps activities that don't cost or require so much effort to obtain. An Ultra Ball, just for me, and I'm not perfect on the Pokemon, but an Ultra Ball for me is something that is like a Gucci ball. It's a high-end ball. And sometimes, why do we need that? If you have good home cooked food in your belly, why do you need it to be, I don't know, $3,000 Kobe beef? I don't know how much Kobe beef costs, but like, do we really need ultra luxurious things? Because how are those things produced? Are they produced in a sustainable way? And are they sustainable for our fellow human beings? So that is a shift. Maybe we don't need the ultra lifestyle. Maybe that is not long-term sustainable. Maybe that's the lifestyle of hierarchical systems that, again, are active and don't help everybody. Like, what are lifestyles that we can all win and it's not so exclusive? Okay, so what can help us with that, or what can give us further guidance? And we have a grass energy Pokemon card. So this is a green card with a green glowing sphere with a black stylized leaf, and it's got the comet thing. So it's got like a little extra flair on there. And so when I'm thinking about actions and lifestyle shifts, when I think about green, I'm thinking about things that are in nature, things that are organic and natural. Green is also associated with the heart chakra. So things that are done in love, a lifestyle, a lifestyle that centers our love for each other. Hey, welcome, um, PXNGS. Forgive me for how your name are. We're talking about how we can create a better future. So right now we're working on what actions or lifestyle shifts we can make to catalyze. If you have a question, you can put them in the comments. What are things that are organic and nurturing? Back to that re-energizing. There used to be a time where um, you're gonna play some code. Okay, cool. Thank you. Just I will try and find you on Twitch. Thank you. Um, things that are sustainable. Like when I think of what's the opposite of this, it's kind of like a jet setting lifestyle, flying on private jets or doing things like individual transportation and building things and activities that more people can benefit from. And I'm just throwing out some things there that are more organic to me. Um, Public transportation, improved use of natural energy or green energy, doing things that build community, doing things that don't harm the planet. And these seem like lofty goals, but it's not impossible. For example, like it's rethinking we go about our business. Like consumer culture is not sustainable. It's you can only wear so many clothes. And if let's say you just decided I'm going to buy something new and wear something new every day, you also have piles of used and trash clothes that unfortunately go to more um, colonized and I don't remember the word they were using, exploited. They go to exploited countries. So we don't have to see the impact of some of these choices that we make, some of these lifestyle choices that we're making that are by design exclusive to exclude other people. So maybe some people feel better about themselves. And it builds this mindset of scarcity and lack of abundance. But if we were doing things that were more organic and aligned with nature and our role in it, yes, the negative impacts that fast fashion has, that's just one aspect to me of a lifestyle that's not sustainable. Once upon a time, even though people think of that as primitive isn't the right word, but the older days were like like the little house on the prairie days where a lot of work was was put into just surviving. You spent a lot of time processing food and things like that, but at least they knew where their food came from. They had a Sunday dress, and that Sunday dress you brought out on Sundays. You had like shifts, you had like linen or cotton depending on where you lived, but underclothing so that your other clothing could be like brushed out or it didn't wasn't you didn't use as much, you just didn't have as many clothes. People didn't judge you by you having the latest every week, to my understanding, in my view of Little House on the Prairie. But even the very wealthy people, they had the same thing. They had day dress. Like you kind of had like this capsule wardrobe of clothing, and it was good, long-lasting things that the quality that lasts for a while. So when we're thinking about lifestyle shifts or this, forget fashion then. What about just built-in obsolescence? Look at the tech industry. There's so many things, like your phone is built to basically self-destruct. Your car, excuse me, your car is built with crumple zones, which are supposed to be safer, but it's not built to last for a long time. All of those appliances, they're not built to last. They're built for um, self-destruction, basically. So you have to buy a new one. That is not sustainable. In this lifestyle that you always want the newest and fanciest thing, Apple cords, exactly. Yeah, all of these things are set up to self-destruct. So what can help us with that? And we have the Pokemon trainer cards. These are the Pokemon Rangers, and they remove all effects of attacks on each player and their Pokemon. So this is even regenerative. It's something that they're basically saying, no, one of them is pointing like with a finger out, kind of like, like you can't do that. And the other one is just looking smug and just hanging out there. So there's two of them there, but together they remove the effects of those things. So again, when we're thinking of our lifestyle, like when you go shopping, there's a sign that says, leave it as you found it, or better yet, can we leave it better than we found it? So I really like that, removing the effects. So perhaps like if we lived lifestyles or tried to create systems where our impact is minimal, our impact is in harmony and organic. I don't have all the answers, but those get us better constraints and questions. And as we're moving forward, how do we remove the impacts of what has been happening all over the world, to all of these exploited countries, to all of the countries that have been impacted by violence for the sake of profit? So, how do we remove the effects of those attacks and repair the harm? And the next question is, how can we address the things that will get in the way? Okay, so there's various challenges. So what's our plan when we encounter obstacles? So what could be some of the obstacles that are happening? Oh my gosh. All right, so we have Execute, and these are grass energy Pokemon cards as well. But this group just looks like a bunch of like, there used to be, I think, the in the Powerpuff Girls, like the Rowdy girls or something like that. It's a bunch of cracked eggs. They look kind of demented, and they all work together, and their power is hypnosis. So I think a lot of us are being put to sleep by these bad eggs. It's six eggs use telepathy to communicate among themselves. It is believed to carry plant genes and the genes of other species. So it's some weird, like Frankensteinian amalgamation of what should be natural being used in a completely different way. So I think part of the things that we're up against is this mass hypnosis, is this mass complacency out there with things that are kind of twisted. And this idea that it's just a few bad eggs, whereas the few bad eggs are indicative of an entire system that is designed to work this way. It's kind of like I'm thinking of the Wizard of Oz, where don't look behind the curtain, what's out there. So that's kind of interesting to me. I mean, maybe if you're looking at these, you have a different idea, but I'm just thinking that we're being led by a few cracked eggs that are trying to do this mass hypnosis to think that what is against our best interest is how things could be run, and there's nothing else, because this is how it's always been, and we can reject that. So our next one, again, we get a lot of fairy healing energy Pokemon cards, and that's hard to do when we're under this, because so many people have been manipulated, and they'll tell us probably the same thing if you're on the different side of the media, that they have been manipulated to think that black is night, uh, well, black is white, white is black, blue is green, green is blue. Like just everything is all bizarro world. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you like the cracked eggs description. So we need to heal them. Looking at this bunch, there are a bunch of rotten eggs. We need fresh eggs. We need a new farm. We need we need, chickens that are healthy, that have safe environments to produce better eggs, which comes through healing, right? So how can we address the things that get in the way? And healing ourselves, because we've all kind of been, maybe not by choice, because I get it, some of us, a lot of people are just trying to get by every day, and having the energy to fight against these systems sometimes can be a privilege. So if you are somebody that has the privilege to do that, let's work on healing. Take advantage of the privilege you have to center the the rest of us, to center people, to center work people, to center people in other countries that have been exploited by our labor, because they're how the system works right now is some people are always going to have to be poor to for everyone else to have those rock and roll lifestyles, and that really is sustainable. So once again, we get the psychic energy Pokemon card, and this is, for me, it's about intuition. It's purple with a purple eye, but I'm also getting a sense of looking at the systems that are visible and trying to think of how to create a higher energy, because the purple colors are associated with higher states, looking for things bigger and outside of ourselves, expanding our mind, connecting to, I don't know, to spirit or the universe. But if you're not into woo woo, but just something bigger that like produces the best outcome for everybody. This idea of do no harm. So we've gone from these cracked eggs to healing energy, to this kind of collective energy, trusting our intuition. But when you're tapping into higher levels, I think that's where you kind of get this idea of the collective. Because if you're thinking outside of yourself, you're thinking about your bigger and wider community. I was talking with Michelle Price, and she was telling me about like the indigenous viewpoint is thinking 7 generations outward. Um, the nation of Singapore, when they create things, because they're such a little, they have limited access to certain things. They have to think, what is it, 50 years ahead, but they have to think 5 generations. So we have 7 generations, 5 generations. But the point is thinking more broadly versus thinking short term, which is kind of what our demented little eggs are doing. It's such short term thinking. How do we address those things that get in the way? And now we have the dark energy Pokemon card. This is a navy blue card with a navy blue glowing sphere with a crescent moon. And that's being aware of the systems that are out there. How can we address the things? First is naming them, naming those systems and functions and energies that are out there. It's making the connection between twisted policy of the demented eggs and those hidden outcomes. It's looking past the story that we're being told and really thinking, what is their end game? What is their end game? And generally, they've shown us it's extract as much natural resources and make a lot of money, and the rest of you all can, sod off because we have our luxury bunkers out. And I don't think I'm a conspiracy cat. It doesn't make any sense to me that the top 1% can hold as much wealth as nations. That's bananas. That is systems of like beyond our control, and it is our everyday life. It tricks us into thinking that we have a choice when our choice is between the things they allow us to choose from. They allow us to choose from only certain leaders. They allow us to have certain policies. And it's just enough to, maybe we'll hold our nose and do it again. But like, pay attention to the systems that lay underneath. And that means, getting some, doing some research of your own, finding trusted news sources, reading a book. There are so many books by people of the majority that have been trying to tell us about these systems, that have been trying to tell us about these demented leaders, that have been trying to tell us that our heroes aren't really heroes. They're good for the optics, but what lies beneath the optics out there? And then the final question from Asmara is, how can we set ourselves up to do this for the long haul without burning out? And that's really important, because this is going to be for the long haul. It's not going to happen overnight. We haven't put these systems into place like, oh, yesterday we decided, oh, we're just going to exploit everybody. No, these systems have been in place for a long time. And so we're starting with the Steel Energy Pokemon card. This is a gray Pokemon card with a glowing sphere. It has an inverted triangle that has brackets. So when I'm thinking about setting ourselves to do this, we're going to need nerves of steel, spines of steel. We're going to have to be strong, but steel withstands the storms. Steel is also a good conductor of electricity. Steel is agile, light, and flexible for what it's created. Steel is forged out of the fire. Steel is bringing together two other, I think it's iron, I forget what steel is made of. It's another metal, but together it's something stronger. So if we're setting up to do this in the long haul without burning out, we have to work together. We have to become fused in a common purpose together to keep this alive. Getting rid of the impurities. Conducting like conversations and bigging ourselves up energetically. So what else can we learn to do to set us up for the long haul? And we get that dark energy card again, this time with the comet swoosh. So working together to make our own systems, right? They do their thing, we work together, we collaborate, right? In the US, they had the Underground Railroad, so that own secret system that was out there. So we create our own systems and forces, and like act like they do in some ways. We say one thing while we're working on something else, right? They had codes, they had songs, they had many ways to talk to each other, and this was before the internet, and they planned massive change. They resisted. Okay, so I'm getting excited. Nerves of steel, pointing out the systems, creating our own systems, our own plans that help set us up for the long runs. Yeah, so part of dismantling a system is creating a different system, because systems are what produce outcomes. And so we're not liking the outcomes that we're seeing right now of being burnt out, children being exploited, adults being exploited, our planet is on fire. So while we're building a new future, it's creating new systems, different systems to replace the ones that are here. And we've kind of talked about that in the past of this deck, of this particular round, a system that is healing, a system that is organic, sustainable, re-energizing, regenerates resources. Used to be if you cut down a tree, you plant another tree so that there's going to be more trees. Things like crop rotation. I've been reading a book called Blight. this idea that everything has to be huge and globalized, and we have like the food industrial complex that all our food comes from one crop. It makes us vulnerable to fungus like blight. That's what happened with the potato famine. What recently happened with bananas, right? So we have to build systems that are sustainable, and those are the things that will energize us. If we and they can happen. It has happened in the past. There are cooperative companies. I'm not familiar with what a cooperative might look. We don't have a ton here, but I work with a group that some of our members are on here, CoFlow, and that is about working together, co-working, lifting each other up, encouraging each other, and doing it in a way that doesn't have to be business as usual. So we get for what can help in this is another steel energy Pokemon card. And I'm getting just this idea of a framework, building a strong foundation that's flexible but can withstand storms. So it's building something new. We need to have nerves of steel, but the things that we build have to be sustainable, things that can weather the storm, withstand whatever life throws our way. So setting ourselves up by strong, solid foundation. And let's see what happens next. Healing again. Got a lot more healing energy Pokemon card. Pink card with a stylized tulip kind of looking thing. So it's building that into the long haul. Times, and I've written on this before, people take vacation to recover from burnout. Whereas, and this was from one of Brad McEwen's podcasts, what if you built that re re-energizing or rest, we'll just call it rest. What if you built rest into your everyday life? Then when you go on vacation, you can enjoy it from day one. Day one isn't about sleeping or catching up because you're so exhausted. You've already built that into your day so that when you have time off, because we there is a time for work and there's a time for play. When it is time to play, you have the energy to play because you have built healing into the framework. What if we had restorative justice instead of whatever it is that we have now that just hits people, expires people? It's not helpful to people. They're not able to come back into society because it's such a brutal system that we've developed there. So, how can we set ourselves up for the long haul? I think it's having a systematic approach, having on every level kind of fail safes to prevent us from going back to what this was before. And a lot of it, when we look back at this idea of artificial urgency, and again, we're all complicit with some of our shopping online. Do we really need those socks the next day or in three or even same day? Do you need socks same day? For the most part, yeah, there's emergencies, but all of those things, why do we need them to be delivered quickly? And that's ironic because my day job is logistics field, and there's definitely some times where things are critical. But if everything's critical, if we treat everything as critical, that is not sustainable in the long run. So that is some ideas. They're vague. They're, I think, a foundation to help guide us as we flesh out those things in the real world. But I will do, we have 10 minutes left. Yeah, last mile. Yeah, middle and last mile logistics. I think there's got to be a way even to rethink the existing industries we have now. And a lot of the industries are. They're looking into more sustainable fuel. They're looking into electric um, fleet. I know the Navy has been working on our environmentally friendly fuel ships. So all of the things that we do, I have a friend that is going back to making some of their own food, right? I made my own almond butter and it was so easy to do. So when you do things yourself and you get reconnected to why you're doing something, that's another way to not burn out, because now you're reconnecting with something as simple as, yeah, as food. And again, this is not my idea. This is friend Sarah June, who, like, food is essential. If we don't eat, we will we will perish. So let's look at, what does it take to get our food. And not only have we seen, Kafre J posted in his very good newsletter, the Unapologetic Black newsletter, that a lot of our food is tied into prison labor. That's not sustainable. That to me is just slavery 2.0. And how do we divest ourselves from those practices? In a lot of neighborhoods, even having a garden can be a violation of their codes. So even the ability to feed ourselves, they'll have things like, oh, you can't have a farm in your yard, but that's just food. That used to be common. I think, what was it, the Victory Gardens? Way beyond my time, but people used to plant Victory Gardens so they had food to sustain them. And it helps to build varieties of things out there. So I don't think it's impossible. And I challenge you all to think of one tiny aspect of your life, really follow down the rabbit hole to see, how do you get that? Is there a way that you can do that more sustainably? And I will absolutely tell you that uh, it's so easy to make things like nut butters, which are almost superfoods. There's a lot of nutrients in there. Maybe you can plant some potatoes. I mean, it sounds simple, but connecting back to what we're putting into our bodies, how that impacts the earth. So many kids don't know where food comes from. They think it comes from the grocery store, but they come from farms. What are the conditions those animals are in? And a lot of these things are kind of hidden out. Maybe you live in a city, maybe you live in rural places where you see what that looks like. And when you have large scale industrial farming, I mean, I've heard of the pig farms in North Carolina, and the smell is awful. But it's also, where's all this waste going? It goes into the local waters, which are then polluted and fouled. And now we're buying water from a giant corporation, something that grows out of the ground. That doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe I'm too radical. I think people should have a right to clean water and food that's not poisoned. And we can do some of that by reconnecting with those parts of our lives, because we're not urgently trying to just make a profit. So if you're interested in things like this, because I promised um, that I would tell you that there is a dismantling capitalism workshop that is going to be starting soon. So you can, if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me and I'll pass you along to Asmara. That's coming down the pipeline. Also mentioned CoFlow Co., a really wonderful group of like-minded people trying to redefine work and make a change. And for all of you that have been speaking up about what's happening in the world, don't give up, don't stop. We can make a change if we work together. So for my last question, we'll do a stop, start, continue around burnout. How can we have less burnout in our life? Stop, start. Wow, we get so many current cards. Continue. Okay, so for the continue, we have Brion. This is a water Pokemon card, and it looks like a cross between Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and a seal. And Brion is just having a blast. So I know it can sound like, oh, here's all the things that are happening in the world, but like it's not sustainable to be miserable all the time either, right? So dance, have fun. And even what was that movie? Life is Beautiful with was it Adrian Brody, the guy from the piano, or some other guy? But anyway, they're in a horrible place, a concentration camp. But the father tried to find the joy in it for his son. So try and remember to find some joy. There are moments out there. I definitely find them and just continue to find those things, to find those little miracles, whether it be your cup of coffee or making a game out of some parts of your life. Like when I have to go into the office, I try and level up by thinking video games and oh, it's a boss level fight. So those are some of the things we can continue to do, continue to enjoy what is available to us, splash in the water, splash in the puddles, feel the rain on your skin, those kind of things. The things we want to stop doing is maybe being so rigid and dour. I get the Steel Energy Pokemon card, but in this one, I just am focusing on the gray kind of steel color. Like if we give up hope and just think everything will never change, that is not going to help us either. And what can we start doing? Dark Energy Pokemon card. Start paying attention to what is impacting your life. And it's not just external hidden systems, it is the systems run through our brain. It is the stories that we tell ourselves. It is the self talk that runs through our mind. So pay attention to that. We've gotten this card a lot this week, and I've tied it into those kind of subroutines that run through our head. When all we see sometimes is gloom and doom on the news. Thank you, Roberto Benini. Oh, you haven't seen that movie? It was a really good movie. I liked it. Although nowadays I might look back at the movie through the lens of what hidden systems are out there, and maybe it's a movie trying to tell us that we should be happy when we're in prison, and like that's not a good message either. So so I don't know. I can't look at anything the same as far as that goes. I did watch. I will one last thing. I watched Mommy Dearest this weekend. I've never seen the movie before, and everybody says it's camp, right? It's camp movie. The performances are over the top, and I was watching some analysis video, and a lot of the people in the comments were like, "If you have lived in trauma, that's exactly what it's like. It is over the top, but it's so incomprehensible that your brain can't process it. So, for those of us that maybe haven't lived through it, it is so incomprehensible that your brain treats it like camp, right? That's where that gallows humor comes from. So, what is going on in this world right now seems so incomprehensible, but that is not the only thing that is happening. So please try and find something to, and I'm not espousing gratitude to, oh, fiddle dee dee, but if we give up, we're not going to make it. So try and latch on to the things that give you hope, each other. Kristen, I'm so grateful for you joining and hanging out for this hour. If nothing else, for today, another human being took the time to be with another human being. We're uplifting each other. Thank you so much for being in the comments. I'm excited for the new world that we're going to build together. It is possible. They said it was impossible until it's done. And with that, see you all tomorrow and have a great evening. Thank you so much. Be be well.